everyone. Welcome to our first Free Animal Doctor Vet Talk. We haven't really even thought of a name for this series yet, but maybe we'll think of one. Day with the vet, evening with the vet. What do you think, Mark?
Hanging out on the couch with the vet.
Hanging out on the couch with the vet, that's good. So my name's Ryan Boyd. I'm one of the founders of Free Animal Doctor, a nonprofit animal welfare organization. And to my left here is Mark Williams, Doctor of Veterinary Medicine. Mark, you have your own practice?
I do. I own a 4-doctor practice in North Los Angeles County.
4-doctor as in 4 doctors, right?
Yes.
So F-O-U-R.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you want to tell us what it is, or?
I mean, basically, it's in a more rural area of Los Angeles County, so we work on both dogs and cats, as well as large animals, being horses, cows, pigs, sheep.
Oh, you do what? I do horses. I didn't know
Yeah.
the other ones. Oh.
Yeah, we do quite the ranch call practice sometimes.
Okay, all right. And so Mark has very generously offered to give us some time to talk about topics that everybody who owns a dog or a cat or other animals, but we're especially dogs and cats, common household animals, problems that you have. And so we thought this day, for our first one, we'd start off with some real general stuff. We're going to talk about fleas and flea problems, and he's going to give some tips and advice from a medical professional standpoint. And then maybe we'll do another one. We'll talk about some things about diet and stuff like that. But to start, maybe just for a little fun, Mark, I'm going to ask you a question out of left field. All right?
Got it.
What's your favorite seafood?
I hate seafood.
There we go. Look how easy that is. No seafood at all. Nothing? Fish, scallops?
Tuna fish.
Would you eat tuna fish? You said you hate it.
I mean, for some reason, one of the strongest fishes. It just was, my mother beat me into submission younger when tuna fish sandwiches were the day jour lunch on the go in elementary and junior high school.
Okay. So tuna you can deal with, but anything else, no.
Pretty much pearls before swine.
Shrimp?
No.
A lot of people like shrimp, the fried shrimp, even if they're not into seafood.
I don't.
And so definitely not like oysters or urchins or anything.
No,
That's just horrible. Not a sushi man.
No.
No.
Unfortunately, I was one of those people in school that took one too many parasitology classes, and you realize what kind of worms and creepy crawly things can inhabit fish and all that. So
you know what? I had a friend who lived in Japan for a long time, and he told me, he just casually talking like about the time that he got a worm or a parasite, had to go to the doctor. And one time I said something about that, and he said, "Oh yeah, if you live in Japan long enough, meaning that you eat raw seafood, as he would like all the time, 3, 4, 5 times a day, every day maybe." He said, "Oh, if you live there long enough, you get some. It's inevitable." And I was like, okay.
You're almost vaccinated by living in the country.
Well, that's true, yeah. But I myself, I do enjoy the occasional sushi. So if you were hungry and you had to get one thing, then if it wouldn't be seafood, what would it be? Your pork, beef, chicken?
Oh, I'd probably go out and
vegan?
try and hook me a nice big grilled cheese sandwich.
Grilled cheese sandwich. All right, there we go. All right, I like that. All right, meat free, a little dairy, that I've never heard anybody.
That's right.
All right, so getting down to brass tacks, so we were going to talk about fleas, and maybe since we've got a doctor here, we'll start on the medicine side. I'll tell you what I use. In no way are we endorsing any particular product. We're just talking about them. In my own personal life, with my own personal animals, I like to use Brevet Co. Am I saying that right? Brevet Co?
Brevet Co, yeah.
Yeah, and the biggest reason, it's a chewable, and my wife just likes giving them a chew as opposed to putting that liquid on the back. She just prefers that. But my big benefit, it lasts for about 3 months. Right. And so you give it to them, and you're pretty. And I have found it works. Our animals all tolerate it. They've never had any allergic reaction. The fleas stay off of them. So, what is in Brevet Co? What's the active ingredient?
I believe it's Itolinir. It's a drug that affects the synthesis of their skin and body defenses.
Okay.
It's a very effective product, really tolerated well by and large. Like Ryan said, you can avoid in fair-skinned dogs having any kind of skin reaction.
Is that a thing, the fair-skinned dogs?
There are some fair-skinned and sensitive dogs that will get a reaction where you put it in.
Oh, with the drop, with the liquid that goes on the back of the neck.
Yes.
Why does that go on the back of the neck? Is that just so they don't lick it?
Yeah, I think it's just so it can get absorbed before they try to chew it.
So technically you could apply it anywhere, but they just think.
I think so. I think
get around
you're taking advantage of gravity, and you're taking advantage of the fact that they can't lick on it. Yeah,
So
the
there's
biggest
nothing
thing.
magical about the back of the neck.
No, I
always
don't. I think
wondered about
that's what when they did their research. That's kind of what the happy medium they came to.
Okay. And so really what that is, that's just being absorbed in the skin.
Right.
And that absorption, you're saying certain dogs with sensitive skin, it can annoy them.
Yeah, I will see some periodically that will have a rash right there where
Okay.
will have a reaction. I think the biggest thing with Brevet Co is you just need to remember it because it does
Yeah, we
have
write
a
it down
fairly
on the
long
calendar. Yeah.
period. And I think the company makes it pretty easy to do that.
Now, the ones the ones that go on the back of the skin, the topical ones, I guess
Mhm.
we could say. Look at me with my my vet word.
Mhm.
The topical ones, they're usually 30 days, a month.
Correct.
Right. And what's the active ingredient in most of those? Do you know?
I think some of them are permethrins and some of
Okay.
them are analogs.
Okay. And we do see things online all the time. These rumors get spread around, stories about, there's always suspicion among, I guess, regular people or lay population about, anything chemical or man-made. So we'll see things about certain brands or certain ones, brand X, I don't want to say a particular brand, but brand X kills dogs. My dog died. I gave him whatever, we put it on the back of his neck. 30 minutes later, he had a seizure and he was dead.
Right.
My understanding is I think a lot of these stories are exaggerated or even not true, fake news, as it were, sort of. But you tell us, you're the doc. I mean, first of all, general experience. Have you ever seen anything like that?
I've seen some pretty bad reactions. I think it's Ryan,
Seizures and stuff, neurological stuff?
I think, Ryan, it's a situation where you get what you pay for. I think if you try and buy some of these knockoffs where they've taken some shortcuts as far as their manufacturing process and all that.
Knockoffs. Explain.
I mean, basically, they're not brand name products like Frontline or Proventix or Brevet Co. They're made by generic companies that are trying to cut costs and make them cheaper to find that niche in the market. And I think sometimes those products are not as well tolerated by animals, and some animals can have a really severe reaction. So I think
Explain. This is interesting. I didn't know this. So what you're saying, even though they have the same active ingredient, the generic one may be more risky for your dog because of the manufacturing process of making that ingredient?
I mean, I think it's a combination of things. Some of them are, the least of a concern is they just don't put as much of the product, the active ingredient in as they should, so it's not as effective.
Okay.
They might use different carriers and things in their manufacturing process that can negatively affect the dog. They might put some other things in that are cheaper to try and boost the fact that they don't put the more expensive quality ingredients in, and that can have a negative effect as well.
So your first bit of advice, if you're using these flea medications, use a name brand from a trusted manufacturer.
Yeah, or get some recommendations.
Most of them are prescription, right? So you have to get it from your vet. Okay.
But I think in going to the online, there are some you can get non-prescription.
Okay.
And I would be more cautious about those as far as both effectiveness as well as any kind of negative interaction.
Okay. And how much do you remember off the top of your head? I don't remember. Brevet Co, I think it seems pricey up front. I think it's like $70 or something.
Right.
But then you have to think, well, it's a 3-month, right? As opposed, so actually compared, it's $25 a month or whatever. So am I right about that? Am I getting the prices
I think so.
approximately right?
Unfortunately, my job, most of my stuff is sticking sharp things into animals, not I have
pricing.
I have assistance for that. But I think you kind of have to look at it through several ways. It's a good quality product, excellent quality product. It's very effective, and it does have a long span between doses. So you have to look at all those things. And just I think if you have a concern, you want to control the fleas, but you want to make sure there's no negative interaction. A product like Brevet Co is great because it is so safe.
Oh, you would say it's safer than the topicals?
I mean, I
don't know.
Unfortunately, I work out in the desert, so the fleas are not as big of an issue, but my laboratory is my mother because her dogs live farther down toward the coast, and her dogs seem to have a little bit of an upset stomach with the topicals, whereas Brevet Co, they tolerate it very well.
Okay, so there we go. All right, that's very interesting to know. And as far as any of these, for somebody that's never given them, if the dog is going to have a negative reaction, let's say it is going to have one of these reported seizures or something serious, something more than just a little rash on the back of the neck, which is, right. Is this something that would appear pretty soon after you apply it, or would it happen days and days later, or we don't know. I mean,
Yeah, the ones I've heard about, I think, happen fairly quickly.
yeah, like within an hour.
Yeah,
or so,
upon
right?
immediate absorption.
Because I've heard that about vaccine reactions. Very rare, but if it does happen, it usually happens like in the vet office, like right after the vaccine.
I mean, there's kind of two reactions there.
Okay.
The acute, severe anaphylactic reaction can occur very quickly, but much more commonly, especially with rabies vaccine, you'll get a localized bump or some soreness.
Yeah.
Just because, unfortunately, the vaccine is working very well, and the body's drawing a lot of cells to that area, and they cause some inflammation.
Yeah. I think our general pet owner is not too concerned about some little rash or a bump. What they're concerned about is they read these things and they're like, oh my gosh, I don't necessarily trust pharmaceutical companies or chemicals. And all I have to do is read one story where somebody says my dog died after he gave flea medicine, and it's like, well, I'm going to err on the side of caution. And you're saying, I mean, and I think our general consensus is, no, that's a little bit ridiculous. You need to go talk to your vet and find out, because the benefits of these medications are great, and the odds of something like that are very, very small, and can be mitigated and all of that.
And I think you've got to look at your unique situation. I think there are some places where people live. I mean, back east in Florida, I would probably put saran wrap around my animal, because the ground and the environment is so
we lived in
conducive.
Georgia, in Savannah, Georgia, and we had never had really a problem with our dog having fleas. This is when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I remember my dad went through so much trying. It was just impossible to keep fleas off the dog back then. And I don't think they had some of these medications back then either. I remember we used like the flea collars and that sort of stuff. So we'll get to that. I just want to interrupt real quick and say, if you do hear some woofing or barking, we are at our offices. We've got some dogs here, including a dog that
we have a whole team.
Yeah, just came in stray, and he's a bit of a yapper. So please tolerate us on that. But yeah, so okay, so some people aren't going to use these products anyway, or even if you do, you want to control fleas in other ways. So before we talk about what you can do around your house and your yard, what is your opinion about these over-the-counter sprays, flea collars, those products? Are you wasting your money doing those? Is there any utility to it? The flea collar that you see at PetSmart for $9.99, those kind of things, or well, you tell me.
I mean, I think, Ryan, you're looking at like several different situations.
Okay.
I think, I guess we'll start out from the front end. The collars and the tags, I think they try and lull you into thinking that you're doing a good job on fleas, but in the absence of doing anything else, I think they're fairly ineffective, because the chemicals in them are fairly similar to the sprays and all that, and in that, their penetration or their spread action is probably 1 to 2 inches on either side of the tag. So that neck area is doing really good, but since most of the fleas live on the other end, around the tail and around the...
That's where I see them all the time. You lift up like the tail and they're all in the butt or the back of the thighs, around the crotch.
And the collars and the tags aren't going to do any good there. So
they only spread a few inches.
By and large. So I think with rare exceptions, most of the collars and tags are not very worthwhile. I think the sprays, once again, you get what you pay for. I think there are some sprays that have citronella in them or have some other herbal things. They can be pretty ineffective against insects like fleas, because they have a very hard shell that's difficult to penetrate. Okay. Some of the more expensive ones, unfortunately, the brand name products that have the permethrins and things like that, are much more effective. But you have to also look at the environment and look at the surroundings of the dog to make sure it's not just an endless cycle. You spray, fine for a few days, then the fleas jump back on because they're in the environment, and away you go again.
Yeah, and my understanding, what's going on a lot of times with the flea situation is it's relatively easy to kill a live adult flea, but it's those eggs and things that really, really survive and are hard to get rid of. And the life cycle's so quick that you end up with this like, oh yeah, I think I haven't seen a flea for 2 or 3 days, and then they're back right away because you didn't kill the eggs.
And I think the eggs are they're very secure in the environment, and they're made very well as far as to avoid just very minimal affairs to try and kill them off. So I think you have to really look at physical removal, both of the eggs as well as cleaning up the environment so there aren't areas for them to lie dormant and do their thing to have a truly effective program.
So let's talk about, like, in the house, what can we do in that way to, so, okay, obviously you gotta wash the dog bed. What else? I mean, it's going to be pretty obvious stuff, but it's still good to talk about because we don't think about all these things.
I think you have to look at, where's the dog's immediate environment? Where do they spend the majority of their day? And that's going to be, those close proximity areas are going to need a lot of extra attention, because if there's going to be any eggs or juvenile fleas, they're going to be in those areas. So paying a lot of effort and attention to vacuuming or physically removing any flea debris or eggs in that area is going to be really important. Just generally looking around the house for areas that might be dark and moist and protected, and trying to address those areas, because those are other places that juveniles and flea eggs can reside. I think the bombs are certainly something to consider in a lot of situations.
The sprayers, the foggers.
The ones you leave on and leave the house or get choked to death.
Yeah, right. Turn off the pilot lights, all that stuff.
That's right. Yeah, turn off the open propane flames.
Yeah.
Because I think those situations, if you have a lot of overhanging furniture or you have a lot of protected areas, they're not going to be as effective because they tend to go up and they tend to go down.
Yeah, you were saying that earlier. In the office we're in, there's a lot of, you can't see them because they're actually off camera. Oh, you can see the chairs we're sitting in.
That's right.
There's a lot of these sort of low couches, modern office furniture. And you're saying, like, actually the areas directly underneath there might not get penetrated by the bed bug bombs.
Right.
Or the bug bombs.
And you look at sofas and things like that. I mean, under the pillows and under the cushions, and if there's some throws on it and all that.
And I remember you gave some good advice. You were saying for the dog bed, to sort of get the best out of cleaning it, saying before you wash the dog bed, take the dog bed and vacuum it, with the hose or whatever attachment. And you're not going to necessarily vacuum up all of it, but the vacuuming is also going to loosen the fibers and loosen eggs in there, so that when you wash it, it's going to be more. The washer is going to be more effective at getting them out.
Right.
Right. So sort of pre-vacuum before you wash a dog bed. And when you're looking at dog beds, you probably want to consider maybe the soft, fluffy ones. But how thick is that fabric where stuff can get down in it? And maybe the ones that are a little, I don't know, what would you say, thinner or whatever, might be a little
more
better.
Porous and things like that. Because
Right.
I think when you get into the padding, it's very loose and very porous.
Right.
So if the fleas can get down in there and produce some eggs, they can be fairly impenetrable unless you make a lot of effort to try and get rid of that environment.
And you were saying the washing in the washing machine is not so much about killing the eggs or the fleas. So it's not about whether it's hot water, cold water, drying or not. It's more about that the washing literally lifts them out and then drains them away down the drain of the washer. So that's what you're really trying to do, is just remove them. And I have noticed, I think it is better. What we do, our dog bed has stuffing. It has the stuffing inside. So we take it. First we vacuum the outside. Then we take the stuffing out, and we even vacuum the stuffing just loosely with the hose. Right. And then we wash it. And that pre-vacuuming has kind of loosened everything up. And, it's hard to tell because I didn't do like a blind scientific study. But we haven't had any problems with fleas on the bed for a long time now.
Yeah, I think making those extra efforts will have a good payoff.
Yeah, it's not that hard. A little bit of vacuuming, and you've already gone through the trouble of taking it all apart and whatever. Do the extra 10 minutes. Now, you were mentioning, we'll just mention this real quick. We're in Southern California. We do have the benefit of a fairly dry climate. You're out in even more desert area, which helps sort of naturally prevent all insects to some degree or reduce them. But you were saying something about, like, in Phoenix, which is obviously a desert, they've been having problems with fleas because of landscaping?
Right. I mean, I think that's something you have to consider when you consider the environment. How heavy a landscaping do you have? How much debris is under the plants that can stay warm and fairly moist? Because fleas and even ticks in a lot of situations are going to really inhabit those protected environments. And that's something you have to be concerned about as far as removal and monitoring to make sure they don't keep reinfecting your house and environment. And
it's probably good for having less mosquitoes too. I mean, West Nile and all that stuff. So also consider the outside of your house. If you can, maybe less water-intensive landscaping, less stuff that really provides a lot of shade and cover. More like if you're in Southern California anyway, deserty outside landscaping, less water, more open, exposed. So what they do, correct me if I'm wrong, but the fleas they like the moisture and they like the debris. So if you've got like a big flower bed with stuff hanging over and it's dark and there's loose leaves in there, they like to get and live in that in little puddles of water, just like the mosquitoes.
Yeah, if you're flood irrigating and under your plants has a lot of leaf debris and things like that, it's going to be a really good environment to hatch a lot of bugs.
Right, and then the dog, and so, okay. Now, do these products like Brevet Co and the other prescription flea control, do they, if the dog, let's say the dog is, had on Brevet Co, it's during its active phase, he's had it, say, for a few weeks, he goes out, he gets in a area where there's a lot of fleas and the fleas jump on him, is it preventing them? Are they like avoiding him because they don't like his smell or whatever, or are they getting on him and dying? Or how is it controlling these external fleas that come? Like when you use mosquito spray when you go camping, I think it's not that it kills the mosquitoes, it's just that the mosquitoes stay away from you. They don't like the way you smell.
It's a repellent.
Right, repellent. There you go.
In this case, it's when the fleas bite the animal that's been treated, they absorb some of the chemical and they basically succumb to that. So the animal can stay fairly flea-free,
but they still might get the occasional bite, actually.
Yeah.
If they're out exposed, I see.
Yeah, and it's just kind of cutting down the bite trauma and things like that. But you have to remember, the other animals in the house, as well as you, are still going to be affected because you're not treating yourselves.
That's right. Is there any flea treatment for people? Is there a pill we take? I guess, but we don't have fur, and we take regular showers and baths and stuff, so that's how we
hopefully your cleanliness level addresses a lot of that.
Well, that's actually an interesting question, though, for the average, because why is it that dogs get it and we don't? It's not that there's anything special about dogs genetically, it's just that a dog doesn't take a shower every day, right?
And they're covered with hair, so they're a lot more protected.
And they can't change their fur, and we change our clothes, we wash our clothes. Okay. So if I was really hairy and didn't change my clothes, I'd end up with fleas too.
Yeah. Well, and you hear about the homeless people, and one of the big concerns they have is by fleas.
Yeah.
And they have a flea and tick problem because of sanitation things. So that's one of the things to look at.
Okay, fantastic.
So everybody in the household, take a shower on a regular basis.
There you go. With the dog.
With the dog.
Yeah. All right. Good. I don't know. All right. Well, that's some pretty useful information, I hope. Like I said, this is our first video, so we'll work on getting them more smooth, and maybe work on like a way that you guys can submit questions that we can ask Dr. Williams, and we can come back and have a question and answer session. So for now, you can submit them. You can go to our Facebook page, Free Animal Doctor. So our Facebook, excuse me, I got a hiccup there from drinking my coffee. Our Facebook is facebook.com/freeanimaldr, so the abbreviation. Or you can just look up Free Animal Doctor on Facebook. Our Instagram is @freeanimaldoctor, spelled out FREEANIMALDOCTOR. And then, of course, our web page is our name, freeanimaldoctor.org. So you can look it all up on there. And the videos are also on YouTube. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, which we'll have more of these coming out. But, we'll look for ways that maybe we can do it a little more interactive, or maybe do a Facebook Live. We can do a live one or something. But for now, it's our first one. We're going to come back. I'm going to do our next one is going to be, we're going to talk about diet and food. And we'll see about that. Anything else to say about fleas before we go? Any last
I think
thoughts
just
about
be consistent and develop a good plan.
Okay.
And really know the area you live in and what kind of insecticidal needs you need to pursue.
Right. And so a lot of that's going to come, talking to your vet is probably really going to help, because your vet is going to be able to know where you are and what works better here and all that stuff. Oh, you know what? We could mention real quick, heartworm, because we don't have a lot of that out here in Southern California. But heartworm is spread by mosquito, right?
It is. Basically, the biggest thing in California we look at is dogs that travel, especially into the southeast or parts of the north. They're going to be much more susceptible. So I think if you're traveling, if nothing else, getting your dog tested on a regular basis.
That's a great point. Yeah, if you go to New York or Florida or wherever and you bring your dog with you, your dog's going to be exposed to heartworm potentially. Right. And the heartworm preventative, is it killing the heartworm, or it's stopping mosquitoes?
It's killing the heartworm. It's killing the immature phase, so they don't become mature and inhabit the heart environment.
So so especially if you're traveling out of Southern California, or if you live in one of those areas, you really should consider that. That's important. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's check where you're going, and especially in the southeast and all that, it's still a very serious problem.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you made me think about it, because my parents live in the South, and so that's true. If I were to go home with my dogs, they would be exposed to it.
Right.
Absolutely. And then I'm thinking, oh, I'm in Southern California, it's not a big deal, don't worry about it. But yeah, and a lot of people travel with their dogs now. People take them on summer vacation, all that kind of stuff. So the heartworm preventative actually kills the heartworms, and in
Right,
that juvenile
the
stage.
immature ones.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay. So that I didn't know that. I thought it was more of just a mosquito repellent.
Right.
So it is really something important to consider. So see, there you go. That's the kind of stuff you got to talk with your vet and tell your vet these things. It's just like with people going to the hospital. They tell you, tell your doctor. If your doctor doesn't ask the question, then you tell them. You gotta advocate for yourself. You gotta advocate for your pets. And so tell your doctor, like, hey, I travel a lot to Florida. I bring my dog with me. And, do I need this or do I need that? Or should I do something different? Should I do a different brand or a different version of this brand of preventative? So good points all. All right, Mark. Well, let's sign off for now. Bye, everybody. And again, subscribe to our channel and follow us on social media.
Take care and talk to your vet.
That's right. Bye.